Welcome back to the Brand by Design podcast, my friends. If you are a creator, a personal brand, a spiritual entrepreneur, and you are finding yourself in a time where you are pivoting, you're changing niches, and you're wondering, how do I continue the trust within my new niche? You're going to want to pay attention to this episode. In this episode, I'm going to be breaking down how to build trust within your brand by selling through your openness, which is a BG5 thing. Now, I'm going to be using Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni as examples for how to do it right and how to do it wrong, where you're going to fracture trust as you go. I have Justin Baldoni's body graph up here. We also have Blake Lively's. So if you're listening on the audio only podcast, I'll put a link to the YouTube video in the notes if you wish to join us over on YouTube and watch this video there. So the number one thing we have to keep in mind when we are looking at human design is that your definition is what's considered your strength. I lean into strengths-based psychology and positive psychology. Therefore, it's leveraging what you are best at. Something I've said for a lot of years is get paid for what you are best at. We get paid for what we're best at by leveraging our strengths. That's something consistent within you. So that's going to be your definition. And selling through our openness, anywhere that's white in your body graph. Because where you are white in your body graph is where you have gained wisdom. Where a lot of people go wrong is they're trying to sell through their definition. And if you're newer to human design, this is probably going to be quite high level. This is what I've learned in my profit potential certifications at the BG5 Institute, which is the business side of the human design system. And I combine this with actual business strategy because I have over 15 years of experience in branding, marketing, and PR. So positive psychology agrees with Ra Ruhu. Your best bet at success is leveraging your strengths rather than constantly trying to shore up your weaknesses. And in human design, we call that living through your openness. And this is where Justin Baldoni goes so right within his brand, is he is constantly leveraging his strengths, which is his definition, whether he realizes it or not, and selling through his openness. This is also where Blake Lively goes hella wrong with hers. Let's start with Justin Baldoni. Now, I'm not going to do a complete profit potential breakdown for him. I'm going to pick a couple pieces that I feel are the most relevant to what he does right. And then we'll look at Blake Lively and the most relevant pieces to what she does wrong. Now, I do have a new offer coming. It's based solely on profit potential. You're going to want to be the first to know about this one. Now, the best way to do that is join my email list. I'll put the link for my brand archetype quiz in the show notes so you can take the brand archetype quiz, get on my email list, and then you'll know when the profit potential strategy sessions launch because you're not going to want to miss this. Now, number one, that's a great leeway over to the thing that Justin Baldoni does very well and Blake Lively struggles with. Justin Baldoni is consistently the creator brand archetype. Man Enough is based on the creator brand archetype, and he is very consistent within that. Blake Lively, however, she is historically the ruler brand archetype, and that's kind of that Met Gala princess vibe that she had for a very long time, the Hollywood power couple. However, where she has struggled consistently, even with her branding archetype, is she's tried to take on the branding archetype of those around her. So she tries to take on the jokester, which is Ryan Reynolds. She tries to take on the every woman, which is Taylor Swift. And because she has this really strong identity, really strong G center, which is direction and identity, taking on and mirroring back identities is a surefire way to fracture trust as a defined G center. Now, further to that, with that defined G center, you're not selling identity. You're not selling self-love. You're not selling direction. You are the one that's meant to be anchored in who you are. So every time she flip-flops between archetypes for a defined G center, that is more detrimental to your brand than an undefined G center. Now, full transparency, flip-flopping on your brand archetype is going to be detrimental regardless. The best brands in history, the best businesses in history have picked one branding archetype and stuck with it. It doesn't mean you can't grow and evolve within your branding archetype, but you're not flip-flopping between branding archetypes. For example, Nike has been the hero forever. Disney has been the magician forever. Taylor Swift, the every woman. And she is a great example of being able to move within an archetype without losing your archetype home base and foundation. So every time Blake Lively flips these brand archetypes, she's fracturing trust with her audience across all of her different businesses. Blake Lively shows up where she takes on aspects of those around her and tries to put that in her brand. But we also see that in inconsistencies where she'll say, I don't even drink coffee. And then she had a reel that came out recently and she had coffee in her purse. So I feel like she was trying to relate to like the every woman that it is tired and running off of coffee. Or you'll see her say she doesn't drink, but she has an alcohol brand. That inconsistency as well is just pulling you into this overall chaos that Blake Lively is barfing everywhere. And yet, she would have much more luck if she had a consistent branding archetype. Look at Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey, lover or hater, Mariah Carey has owned the ruler brand archetype, and she has been rock solid in that branding archetype. Again, you can look at big corporations. When they've stayed true to their branding archetype, everything goes well. As soon as they shift out of it or try to pivot out of it, things don't go well, except Old Spice. Old Spice pivoted and it worked really well for them, but they are the exception, not the rule, and they did it very well. So Justin Baldoni has stayed very true in his creator brand archetype, even bringing forward a new way of looking at masculinity with Man Enough. He has also stayed rock solid in his approach to being very human. He is a 3-5 profile. That first line is all about trial and error. It's a very human approach to business and life. It's about bumping into life and learning through experiences. And so he's brought that thread of the 3 into everything he's done, where he's very honest about the struggles he's had. He's very honest about ways that he has looked back and essentially said, I would do that differently, or I see where I messed up there, or I see where I wasn't aligned there. Most recently, we see that with an interview with Rainn Wilson, where he says, I see now that I was struggling to separate the projects I took on from being seen as good enough, a good enough actor, a good enough director. That's the third line, bringing that trial and error experience to people so they can learn that it's safe to make mistakes. And even as a creator archetype, he grounds it in a very human energy by saying, look, I might have this platform, but I'm still trying to figure it out. On the flip side, with Blake Lively, she's a 2-4 profile, which is still very shocking for me. It's very shocking. That when we're looking at profile, and business profile is your public role. It's how people are meant to see you. It's also how you live out your purpose. That too is the natural. And the fact she continues to try and take on others' identities makes her not come across as the natural at all. Again, she's baking cookies like Taylor Swift in one video. She's the Met Gala princess at ruler brand archetype in another. She's trying to tell jokes like Ryan Reynolds in another. She doesn't come across as the natural at all. In fact, it comes across like she's trying very hard to be something. I can't figure out what she's trying to be, but it comes across as she's trying very hard to be something and that she's actually not trusting her innate gifts. That 4 on the back end as well is the networker. Now, no doubt her and Ryan network, and that's coming out that they pulled strings to get Justin Baldoni even fired from WME, who represented him. So she does have that 4 aspect, but that 4 tends to be that BFF energy, pulling people in. And I just don't feel overall Blake Lively, especially someone with a strong G center, a strong ego, and a 2-4 profile, comes across as someone that is a natural. Richard Rudden Gene Keys refers to the second line as the dancer because they float through life. It feels very contrived and forced when I look at her branding and when I look at how she shows up. So that 2-4 is also a bit problematic. Now, those are 2 main pieces that stand out right away. Is the one, brand archetype. Everything I do is grounded in the psychology of branding. So our brand archetype is number 1. Number 2, profile. You need to be in alignment with your profile because, again, that's how people see you and how you live out your purpose. So that stands out right away. Justin is somebody who is very open about his experience, very open about trial and error. And again, that humanizes the brand because with that third line, you're showing people it is safe to make mistakes. Now, that fifth line, no doubt, has caused likely some issues for Justin. That's the savior energy. And it's unconscious when it's on the design side, when it's the second number in your profile. And often, what you can find with the 5 on the unconscious side is you don't understand, right? It's your entire life. You've been doing trial and error. You've been bumping in a life. You've been making mistakes. Why do people see me as the guru? Is kind of how the mind goes. Why are people looking to me to guide them? And so, whatever direction Justin goes moving forward, I really believe continuing to leverage the struggles he's been through, the trial and error he's been through, and redefining leadership through the 5 can be a really powerful way forward. And that would be also leveraging his channel of struggle, the 28 to 38, which is knowing what's worth fighting for. No matter the direction he goes forward, leaning on that. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to hit hard times. This is the golden nugget I got from going through these hard times, is essentially how you want to position it in terms of your branding, which he has done wonderfully well. That's how he created Man Enough podcast, and the brand was through his own personal experience. Now, for Blake Lively, I'm going to break down the centers a little bit for her before we flip over to Justin, because I do have some slides I put together to break his down because I think he just does it so well. When we're looking at Blake Lively, we always want to keep in mind where you are colored in, those are inherent strengths you have. Very similar if you take, say, the VIA character strengths test, or you take the Gallup Strengths Finder. Those are fantastic tools used in psychology. I use them with clients. I use them with myself. Very similar to that. So if you're newer to BG5 or human design, I want you to just imagine that everything colored in is like you taking a strengths test, but it's just based on how you were born. So in human design, again, keeping in mind, everything defined is going to be an inherent strength. It's something consistent within you. It's something you can rely on. Now, you can still be in the shadow of it. It's called the not self if it's undefined, and it's called unhealthy if it's defined. But for all intents and purposes for this video, for this podcast episode, if it's colored in, it's an inherent strength. When we're selling, you do not want to try and sell through your inherent strengths. Those are strengths you have. We're selling through the openness. We're selling through where we've gone to school through life and gained wisdom. So, for example, with Justin Baldoni, he has a strength of knowing what is worth fighting for or not. He's not selling that to you. That is his strength through the channel struggle and a 3-5 profile. That's his strength. He's not selling you know what's worth fighting for, and he never has. I'll show you what he does sell you, though. So coming back to Blake Lively, she has the options for selling through her head center, her ajna, her solar plexus, and her root. Now, there's many nuances to this, and within the new profit potential strategy sessions, again, they're not available yet, but get on my email list so you're the first to know to snag those. I will look at the nuances of your design, but primarily we're looking at the centers. I genuinely don't know what Blake is selling. If I look at her brand, I could maybe see she's trying for that inspirational piece through the head center. So selling inspiration will be the head center. Yet I feel like she's really stuck in the gate of confusion. So essentially what she would be selling with the head center is clearing up the confusion for people. So undefined head center is going to attract defined head centers, because remember what I said, just because it's defined doesn't mean you're using it correctly. So the undefined head center is going to attract people with defined head centers. What she would help with very specifically is helping people through the confusion, helping people at transition like birth. We all know Blake has an issue with birth, so she'll probably not like this. If Blake is listening, she's going to be very upset. Transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through. So essentially, if she was selling through the head center and inspiration, she's inspiring people that all transition, all evolution, all growth, there's going to be strength that's required. There's going to be difficulty. There's going to be confusion. That's okay. And she supports people through that. And that's just an example of how this could be used. I don't see that with her. Even the general inspiration with the undefined head center and selling general inspiration, I do think she was trying to leverage that with kind of the Met Gala princess branding that she's had. I also think she was trying to leverage that with the joking back and forth with Ryan Reynolds, like, oh, inspiring people, like, look, but and here's the problem. It's always had the air of, but look at me, look how cute we are. So people weren't buying it. And especially trying to do that like jokester vibe, which is her husband's Ryan Reynolds, on a ruler brand archetype, it just doesn't make sense. It is disconnected. So it might work for Ryan's brand because he's the jokester and he is kind of like playing up that joking back and forth with his friends and wife. I almost said ex-wife. Who knows? Maybe one day on social media, it might work for his, but I don't feel inspired. In fact, when they did that, I would always think, and I know people are going to be upset. I used to like Ryan a lot. I used to think it was cute when Ryan did that, but I still only saw her as like Ryan's wife. She didn't inspire me. So I can see where she's trying to go with that might be able to be worked through the undefined head center and selling herself. Because if you're a personal brand and you are an actor or you are a singer, you are selling yourself, right? You're inspiring people to want to be a part of your world. And if you're selling products and services, well, your products and services, what you're selling is inspiring people through the uniqueness of your design. So there's going to be nuances to your design. I just don't see how it works, to be honest. Freedom from pressure for the undefined root, I don't see how she sells that. Clarity through the undefined solar plexus, I don't see how any of her brands sell that. And with the undefined ajna frameworks, concepts, I don't see how she sells that either. And so I think the big issue overall with Blake is she is genuinely trying so hard to be her husband. Ryan Reynolds has created such a strong brand. Love him or hate him, he has created such a strong brand that he can be the face for multiple products. And he does the marketing in a way that matches his branding archetype and his brand, which makes people want to buy the offers on the back end of that. She just doesn't have that. So I'm looking at her body graph and I'm going, well, you don't come across as the natural. I don't necessarily want to be in your network. I think more than anything, what she's doing and why it doesn't work is she's trying to impose her will on people through her defined ego. And because she's consistently trying to impose her will on people, her direction, her flow, what she wants, I genuinely feel all of her brands are always going to struggle. And then she'll probably continue to blame Justin Baldoni for the next 50 years for that. When it's like, no, girl, we're just tired of you trying to like force your will on us. And her willpower is a strength. She should be innately attuned to the material plane and being able to sell people what they want with the 44 to 26. That should just come very natural to her. But again, I think because fundamentally she doesn't know who she is, nothing else works on the back end. It just doesn't work. So I would say what she's overall trying to do in a lot of her stuff is inspire, but it doesn't work because it doesn't match her branding archetype and she's not consistent within it. But overall, just kind of impose. Like, my husband's done this. My husband's done the alcohol thing. So I'm going to do the alcohol thing, even though I allegedly don't drink alcohol. And I think from what I've seen, I mean, I don't work on her team. This is an insider thing. From the outside in, it just appears she grabs what has been successful for others and tries to make it her own. And even with that strong identity, I genuinely don't know. Does Blake Lively drink or not? I don't know. I genuinely don't know because I don't know if I can trust her or not, which is a big problem with your brand when people don't know if they can trust you or not. So I would say that overall is her biggest problem is she's not owning that defined G center. You can pivot. Manifesting generators tend to be very efficient. They are a subtype of generator. They're not their own type. They're not a hybrid with manifestors. Manifesting generators are very efficient. They tend to be very successful in anything they take on. But because Blake is constantly, in my opinion, taking on things that she sees other people be successful within and try to make it her own, like even the hair stuff, did that come because she's seeing other celebrities successful with hair and makeup brands? I wouldn't be surprised. So because she's getting into things for the wrong reasons, even her B for effort, now I'm thinking production company, is that because Ryan Reynolds had maximum effort? So she was trying to copy Ryan? So again, it's just as I work myself through this, I'm going, I don't even know who she is. Does any of this interest her? I don't know. So with the generators, manifesting generators, they have a defined sacral, obviously, and they know when to quit. But because someone like Blake Lively is getting into things for the wrong reasons, what ends up happening is they become the great quitters. So you see all these brands and businesses she started to build that she leaves behind. And it's not a natural pivot. There's a difference between evolving and growing and pivoting and therefore changing and getting into things and quitting because you got into the wrong thing in the first place. Intentional testing is required in business. Intentional testing is required in a brand. I would not go after Blake for that. We all do it, and doing it publicly sucks. But that's what you got to do when building a brand. Yet again, I think because she is a manifesting generator, she has a lot of that building energy, but she doesn't know who she is. So she's trying to take on other people's identities. She's getting into things and quitting because it wasn't right. And then she's trying to impose her will on others, which again, you don't sell through a defined center. She's trying to sell through the defined ego. And the little bit of inspiration that she's trying to sell through the undefined head center doesn't work because it doesn't match the overall tone of her brand, specifically the branding archetype. Could Blake flip out of the ruler archetype and be successful within it? I think one of the most important things she would have to do is just come clean and say something like, I've had a dark night of the soul, and I've realized that I have spent my life trying to live up, for example, to other people's expectations, and I never truly knew myself. So I'm going on the self-development journey and I'm going to discover who Blake Lively is. Then absolutely, I think maybe not people that are eyeballs deep in the Justin Baldoni lawsuit, they probably wouldn't believe her. But I think overall for her branding, taking time away and working on herself would absolutely benefit her brand. And then you can come away from time away and have that rebrand into a different branding archetype. But even just sitting here, I don't even know what actual branding archetype is authentic to Blake Lively because I don't know who Blake Lively is. And I don't think anyone else, including Blake Lively, knows who Blake Lively is. And if you are building a personal brand, which includes being an actor, a musician, etc., you have to know who you are. Again, does not mean you cannot grow, does not mean you cannot pivot. I always tell my clients, I am more concerned if you don't grow than if you do. We should all be growing. And what's the foundation of the brand? So that's my biggest struggles with Blake. Obviously, there's a lot of them. Let's flip over to what Justin Baldoni does really well in leveraging his open centers and undefined centers. I don't know if Justin realizes he does this really well, but he does. And if he's seeing this, good job. So if you're watching on audio and you hear someone crunching as if they're eating popcorn, Annie, my knurr, is hanging out with us. And I think she's riveted and brought some popcorn to eat while she watches. Although I think really she's just hoping I stop recording so she can watch her parrot channels on YouTube. Something I was teaching in the beginner's YouTube roadmap today for the module that drops today is I said, every YouTube channel is solving a problem. And so Annie has her favorite YouTube channels for parrots, right, sweetheart? Yeah. You have your favorite YouTube channels for parrots. You do. What a pretty bird. And that solves a problem. We are eventually going to adopt Annie a friend, but at this point in time, she does not have a friend and she's a very social parrot. So she gets her fix right now through YouTube channels and listening to other parrots. She'll bring her snacks over and eat with them. And so even if you're a streamer, you're a personal brand, you're building a business, and you solve a problem for someone. Annie is very appreciative of the channels that solve her problem. All right, let's swing over to Justin Baldoni. So we talked about the two main things. He has a very consistent archetype. He's aligned with the profile, the public role of 3-5, and he is consistently knowing what's worth struggling for or not, and then bringing those lessons forward to his community and through his brand. Now, where he's doing a great job selling is through two centers we're going to talk about. Number one is the solar plexus. Now, when we're looking at the solar plexus and it's open on Justin Baldoni's, it's completely open, meaning he doesn't have any gates, any colored lines sticking out of his. There's a shadow to it, and then there's wisdom to it. So the shadow for about 47% of the population is being touchy, nervous, and defensive. So the shadow is going to avoid confrontation and truth, not saying something that could cause upset, not knowing what to feel, pretending to be nice, feeling really emotional or not emotional at all, and leading a secret life to protect yourself from potential backlash. And that is because you are amplifying everyone else's emotions at 200%. And over time in that shadow, you just don't want to feel, you don't want to deal with it. You don't want confrontation. You don't want to deal with it. Now, when you are in the shadow, you can't sell, right? Because what he's going to be selling through the undefined or open solar plexus is truth, pleasure, and emotional clarity for others, because he's going to be attracting defined solar plexus community members, clients, listeners to his podcast. They're looking for emotional clarity. Well, I think this is one of the best examples of how to sell through your openness, because if he's either feeling too emotional or not emotional at all, if he's avoiding confrontation and truth, if he's getting tied up in his emotions all the time, well, how does he help others with emotional clarity? And what I see so often, especially with spiritual entrepreneurs, is they say, well, I can do it for others, but not myself. Girl, it doesn't work that way. Your energy speaks before you do. You're right. Just be honest with where you are in your journey. Learn from Justin Baldoni. Just be honest. No one's perfect. Be honest with where you are in your journey. So if he was always trying to just make everyone else around him happy and not allow his emotions to be heard or his views to be heard, well, how does he teach others how to be man enough when he's not owning his true voice, right? That's where you're going to start getting disconnect with the message. And for me, everything that's leaked in regards to Justin has been very consistent, in my opinion, with the brand that he's been creating. In my opinion, everything has lined up. Now, the wisdom of that open solar plexus is emotionally quiet and detached, empathetic. They're not getting caught up in the emotions of others. They're not getting caught up in the drama of others. Look at him right now, even in his PR. He's staying out of the drama. He's still doing PR with his team, but he's not getting into this back and forth bullshit that Blake does basically with herself every day. They confront the truth when necessary. They have a deep wisdom about how emotions affect yourself and others, which is the entire foundation of Man Enough, right? Like this center here is the foundation of Man Enough. He's gone through the struggle. He knows what is worth struggling for. He's done the trial and error himself. And now he brings that wisdom forward about emotions and connection with self and others. That's the entire premise of Man Enough, is this deep wisdom about how emotions affect yourself and others. So good job, Justin. Now, when it's completely open, sometimes the struggles can be not knowing what to feel, feeling very vulnerable, especially he has ADHD. I have ADHD, so I can relate to this. I also have an open solar plexus. That rejection sensitivity can be very loud with an open solar plexus. And especially since he has an open ego as well, which is not knowing what's worthy, can be the shadow of that. It can be a trap that he can get stuck in. But I love how he consistently brings the lessons forward within his brand, because that's what his brand's meant to do. So with this center, you're selling truth, pleasure, and essentially emotional clarity for others. You're helping them with your wisdom, with his wisdom, to understand how emotions affect ourselves and others. And his undefined G center is another place that I see such a beautiful expression of how to properly sell in your brand. He has an undefined G center with 10 gates, 10 and 1 in BG5 in the business application. We call gates traits. So traits or gates, 10 and 1 defined. Now, 10 is going to be selling self-love through proper behavior. And again, what a beautiful example of Man Enough. Now, it's not this dictatorship of this is what you have to do. This is the proper behavior. It's helping you understand how to feel your emotions, express your emotions, and be man enough. He is the creator brand archetype. This is what he feels is the proper behavior in his brand. So, that 10, selling proper behavior, is love of the self and behavior of self. You make money through individual self empowerment, teaching people essentially how they're supposed to act or behave in specific situations or circumstances, which again is the backbone of Man Enough. This is the behavior psychology and archetype of behavior in the physical world, how to act and survive in this world. And he brings it into relationships with self and with others. He's meant to follow his convictions and higher principles while perfecting form. So those higher principles are also bringing the Baha'i faith into his teachings because those are his higher principles. This is someone that always is going to have a job in an organization to let everyone know how things are done, what is appropriate or not. So him as a director is a fantastic role for him to have within the industry. Obviously, Blake Lively didn't like that. And she is the defined G center, but she doesn't have gate 10. In theory, they should work really well together, but I don't think Blake works really well with anyone but Blake Lively and her husband. He also has gate 1, which is selling creative expression, the creative direction, creative self-expression in the now. So again, being a director and directing movies is a great role for someone with gate 1. With gate 1, this is making money through empowerment. We see that with both. Both of those are individual energies, self-empowerment, empowering others through your message, through your brand, which again, I think Man Enough does so well. Here it says, as we honor and creatively express ourselves, the material world honors us in return. So what will be very important for Justin is moving forward to ensure, and he had said this is something he struggles with on the Rainn Wilson podcast, to ensure that the projects he's picking are not to prove himself. That's a shadow of the open ego. That the projects he's taking on allow him to creatively express himself in the material world, so in his industry. It says here, creation is a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. The creative work is the work of demonstration. So acting, directing, being in there and actually being able to express yourself is critical in the brand he's building and how he sells his projects. It has to be his. And so when you see also his health decline through the process of It Ends With Us, and when he was marketing it, he genuinely looks deflated. It's not just the issues with Blake Lively that led to this. It's because this wasn't his creative work. So it wasn't just taking over the movie, but taking away this creative direction and love of self within his work that he's meant to be expressing. Through our success on the material plane, we get to express ourselves more fully. We gain advantage. So he's meant to be very successful so that he can continue to bring his creativity forward and express themselves in more unique ways that are in alignment with him. It says everybody has a right to their advantage because they are unique. You only gain that advantage through self-expression. Again, creating a movie, getting the rights to a movie, directing it, acting in it should have been the cherry on top of how he's meant to create, market, and sell something. And it makes it, when you look at his body graph, that much more tragic how everything went down, because that opportunity to combine everything within his body graph and a powerful message for people was stripped from him. To succeed in the physical world, someone with this trait or gait in an undefined G center is meant to be creative. And so I have no doubt those text messages where Blake Lively says, I'm going to take over the marketing with maximum effort and Ryan Reynolds, and we're like the mafia, we'll do it all ourselves. At that point where he says, this is not a hill I'm going to die on, he knew that the marketing and PR would not express how he's actually meant to sell a movie. Now you could say, but actually the movie was a huge success. How does Justin define a huge success? I have a feeling for Justin Baldoni, it's not just money in the bank. I'm sure that's a piece of it, of course, because that's going to be able to be leveraged for other experiences, other opportunities in the industry. So, yes, of course, how much money it makes does matter. It being a success financially does matter. And I still don't believe that Justin Baldoni's idea of something being a success is solely based on the amount of money it makes. But only Justin Baldoni knows that, I suppose, right? And you can see in the marketing and PR of the movie, the life just drained out of him. And again, I don't believe it's strictly because of Blake Lively. I believe it's because the marketing and PR of the movie, how he sold the movie, was not in alignment with his higher principles, wasn't in alignment with the vision and the creative vision that he had for the entire rollout of this movie. And I've worked with both brand new entrepreneurs and personal brands to big names. Money alone doesn't fulfill you. The number in your bank account at the end of a launch isn't necessarily going to be the thing that makes you feel lit up and fulfilled and excited about what you did. In fact, some of the most misaligned people I work with and unhappy people I work with are some of the richest ones that I work with, based on their body graph. Some people are just all about the money and the material plane and making more money and more money and more money. Taylor Swift is an example. Her chart is all about money and the material plane. Blake Lively's is all about money and the material plane. I have no doubt for her, success literally meant how much money did this movie make at the end. I don't care if it was about grab your friends and grab your florals until the backlash. I don't care. How much money did this movie make? Because her, Taylor Swift, very strong money charts. They have a channel of the entrepreneur. Give people what'll make me money, but also what they want. Justin Baldoni's chart is more about leveraging his struggles and his experiences to help people seek and find emotional clarity, leveraging his wisdom around his convictions and higher principles to sell his creative work, and turning his creative self-expression into art in the material world. That's what, if we look at his chart, is most important to him. And when we look at, well, what makes you the most fulfilled in building your brand and building your business, it's going to be different. Some clients come to me and they're like, I could care less about soul purpose. I don't take those on as a client anymore. I don't care about soul. I don't care about alignment. Like, I just want to make $1 million by the end of the year. And other people are, I believe, wealth and abundance is an extension of me being on purpose. Those are the people I love working with. And I feel Justin Baldoni is that person of wealth, abundance. The financial success is an extension of me being paid for what I'm best at, me pulling my creative self-expression, my convictions, my higher principles into art form, movies, as an example, documentaries, to help others find that emotional clarity and that inspiration, because he does have an undefined, well, he has an open head center, helping others find that inspiration through storytelling and the emotional clarity through Man Enough. Everyone's going to have different underlying motivation, and human design helps us see that. So you can stop chasing other people's dreams and start finding who you are below all the conditioning of what the world's told you your business should look like, or your brand should look like, or how much money you should make to be successful. All right, my friends, that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, you're going to want to be on my email list to be the first to know about the profit potential sessions. Those are being worked out right now. I'm just designing them right now. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit get notifications before you go, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.